Hello everyone, this is Robin Threadbare, and welcome back to the Human Revolution. Well, I've just about finished exploring this part of the area, so let's move on to the next section of the hub. Get over to the Hive. Let's crawl through the garbage here, and yeah, maybe we can take the back entrance now. This is probably still, oh, wait, no, we can't. The Hive is now another locked area, much like Alice Garden Pods.
So I imagine VersaLife's got to have an opinion on things. Think they'll give up all that money they get on neuropozyne sales? Nuh-uh.
They can't have that much influence, not if the whole UN decides to pass restrictions.
Biotech companies have got to be scrambling. TYM, Isolate, they all stand to lose millions.
Zhao Yunru didn't seem concerned in that TV interview she gave. She almost seemed to be welcoming the restrictions.
Yeah, probably because she's made some backroom deal. That's how these corporations work, you know?
Well, he's not wrong.
Have you seen the news? First riots, then a recall. The UN has got to take a stand on augmentations now. The riots didn't really affect Hengsha, but then China has always been more open to cybernetic research than just about any country.
And they've always been more closed about the media, too.
Hey, a fellow expat. You Canadian? American? Don't see too many of them traveling the world these days. Not with how bad your economy's going. Must have been pretty tough when they decided to drop the dollar as the worldwide standard. But after all those housing and banking crises in the early 10s, what did you expect?
Yes, we all remember those housing and banking crises, don't we? Hindsight.
You're the one Bell Tower's looking for. Don't worry. I don't think anyone down here will help them find you. Not since they raided Alice Garden Pots. The place is closed. Those of us who were living in the pots are now living on the streets. I hated that rat's nest, but it was home.
And everybody's on the phone. That's probably for... Oh, wait, she's got off.
You better get off the streets. Bell Tower is sweeping all over city, looking for some foreigner. And you don't look Chinese to me. Go! Don't hang around here. You'll get me in trouble too.
Have you heard about the recall issue by the World Health Organization? Anyone with augmentation is asked to report to a limb clinic. How will this affect the industry? Hansa is...
Shit. I wouldn't want to be you right about now. All those ogs? I mean, you must have been feeling it when that whatever it is happened. I saw a couple other people get hit. Didn't look painful or nothing, but shit, didn't look comfortable neither.
你也感觉到了吗？哎，这感觉是……你好，很高兴认识你。再见，我的美国朋友。
Okay.
How will this affect the industry?
Yeah, there's only so many places you can go thanks to all of the bell tower everywhere. Like, right over here. In front of the Henghua Hotel, there's another bunch of guys. So actually, the best way to get inside is to use the sewer system. Now, you remember me exploring down here before, right? Because one of them opens up into the side room of the Henghua. Obviously, the Hive entrance isn't going to work, even from the sewers. So we can just safely ignore that. Anyway, the arms dealer's still around here.
You want best in the city?
So I'm going to sell some stuff, and...
Thank you. Come again.
That's it. He didn't have any good weapon upgrades on him.
世界卫生组织发布了召回公告，你去扔诊所了吗？我很高兴，我从来没用过那些该死的东西。哦，不好意思。
滚开，窝囊废！你干嘛老烦我？
Man, this place is dead. Is it because of the manhunt? Nobody can get in here? get past the checkpoints. Well, it looks like everybody's gone, in fact. So I guess we can't get a check up and find out what's been happening with what's-her-face. We can listen to the radio, though.
The world's greatest corporate tramps square off in a massively titillating battle to see who can satisfy the sick fancies of the world order better. Let me be clear on my opinion of Kassan. In spite of how hot the 18 to 35 male demographic might think she is, she should be destroyed. It's not a coincidence she's a piece of ass. It's just another way they get you. Oh, Eliza, you're so hot. Whisper some more sweet nothings.
This one's pretty quiet, isn't it?
I've put in a request to have Eliza sit down with me so I can ask her who's really behind the curtain over at Bikers. Yeah, right.
Alright. So, from here we can jump down and... Wow, that's a bad texture. And here it comes back again. What is going on with those propellers? Where was I? Oh yeah, I can drop off in just about any direction from up here. Only question is, which way do I want to go? I mean, I've pretty much explored all of this area so far, and,
Back off.
Whoops.
I heard that. Come out.
Heard that. I should say so. Damn near landed on top of you boys. My bad. Seems like he's coming down here. That could be troublesome.
Someone there? Stop right there.
Uh-oh. Other guy saw me, I guess. Almost shot my head off, too. Well, it looks like he's going to do the same thing as the other guy. So I can take care of him in the same way. And hey, on the bright side, I got 9 more 10mm ammo. That stuff is in direly short supply. Anyway, I'm not going to talk to these guys anytime soon, and don't really need to, so... Well, let's head over to the other side, the other district.
Mr. Jensen, Hugh Darrow here. Please forgive this intrusion, but David assured me of your cooperation and discretion. I find myself in need of some assistance.
I'm listening.
A contact of mine, Meng Yao, is in Hengsha, waiting to fill you in. I'll upload her coordinates now.
Alright.
Have you heard about the recall issue by the World Health Organization?
Another side quest.
Damn bell tower, asshole! I've been stopped 3 times in the last hour. They're questioning all the foreigners they can find. Must be spooked by that augment glitch.
Nope, nothing new.
你不是当地人吧？是吗？
Except for you.
The best in town.
I'm thinking maybe this is the guy who used to be in the Alice Garden pods. Like, he's changed venue since I can't go in there anymore and the place got all shut up. Ah, excellent.
Yeah, I will be right here.
Alright, let's use those mine templates. Get myself some gas mines. Along with EMP and frag, that just about does it for me.
They're questioning all the foreigners they can find. Must be spooked by that augment.
How can the Chinese government let Bell Tower get away with this? They're targeting foreigners as if we were criminals or worse. No need to ask who controls policy in Hengsha. It's obvious that whoever's giving Bell Tower their orders is running the show.
Alright, so there's the sewers. And The ultimate goal, by the way, is...
求求你了，你肯定有些零钱可以帮帮我的。看看我，我原来也是个。
The ultimate goal is a parking garage controlled by the harvesters. That's where the signal's coming from. And that's where that guy is warning me away from. I used to be able to get there, but now it is fully staffed with guards. And I can get around the guards by shooting them, by going down the sewers, and by one other route, which I will use and therefore I won't tell you about just yet. Because I don't have to.
潘奇亚正在招人。难道没有好人愿意跟我说话吗？不是啦，但他们会免费。
Unsubtitled. That's weird.
Don't mind that crap, man. It's indentured slavery. Hugh Darrow pays for your augments, and you spend the rest of your life working on his pet project to pay him back.
难道没人愿意帮助一个可怜的人吗？安装差不多做完了。
The first installation. For this whole global cooling thing to work, Darrow has to build a dozen more notions all over the place. Did you read the fine print?
我在电视上听说了，没有注解啊。
Well, there's your problem.
没有零钱。他妈的游客！
Whoa, who paid for your augments? I'm sorry, didn't mean to be rude, but people tend to notice those things around here.
难道没有好人愿意跟我说话吗？谢谢你。一般大家都认为我不存在。哦，我的朋友，谢谢您停下来。
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no interface for giving money to beggars. So I literally cannot help him.
你也感觉到了吗？ Have you heard about the recall issue by the World Health Organization?
Damn it.
你想要什么，老外？
Don't have anything to say, do you? And neither do you. This is creepy.
干嘛？别烦我啦！
你不是当地人吧？是吗？
Oh, hey, it's the apartments.
有些事情很不对劲。
你为什么这么说？
你难道没发现，所有中欧平时出现在执勤岗位上的警卫都不见了吗？而且这一下午，我一个收割者都没见到。
我听到留言说童的儿子失踪了，固执钟楼和山和会的联盟中又开始瓦解了。
You're not living in Hengsha, are you? You should be careful who you talk to right now. People here are very nervous. So many problems in the world today. Even China is feeling the concern.
你知道今天发生什么了吗？钟楼那些人好像在盘问每个人。不好意思，我不懂英语。
You've got to be the guy Bell Tower are looking for. Am I right? So, what did you do anyway? They really pissed at you.
Well, I killed a bunch of their guys when they assaulted a apartment complex. Also, they're working for the other side in a global conspiracy. So, you know, that's reason enough.
Access granted.
Alright. Don't know how I missed this one before. Well, no, actually, I do. It's because the bell tower blockade was right over there, and I was kind of distracted. Huh. But yeah. It's the apartment complex, and there are people here. Interesting.
You better get off the streets. Bell Tower is sweeping Honolulu City, looking for some foreigners.
Apparently those two aren't actually talking to each other.
You must have felt it too, right? Everyone.
So yeah, it's interesting to see this place bustling with life, but on the other hand, nobody has anything interesting to say. So let's go talk to Hugh Darrow's contact.
Shit. I wouldn't want to be you.
Well, let's look around a little first, and then we'll talk to her. Okay, now we'll talk to her.
Mr. Jensen, right? Thank you for your time. I am Meng Yao. an associate of Mr. Darrow's. I'm in charge of one of his divisions here in Hengsha. You come highly recommended.
Really?
Your boss described you as a most precious asset. Apparently, you are very efficient and always get the job done. We could definitely use a man like you for this operation.
What operation?
We need you to help us stop a group of terrorists who are threatening the Panchaea project. Are you up to it?
Side quest? You shouldn't have.
Okay, I'll help out.
Excellent. Here's the situation. It has come to our attention that these terrorists possess highly classified proprietary information about Panchaea. We've been able to convince them to sell it to one of our agents, a man named Lo Fei. The meeting is supposed to take place near the Alice Garden pods in the Daigong district.
And you want me to crash this meeting?
Actually, there will not be a meeting. We are sending you alone to ensure Mr. Fei's safety. The terrorists will not be expecting that, and will have the information with them on a data chip. You have to neutralize all of the sellers and retrieve the chip so you can bring it to me.
I don't get it. If Fei set up the meeting, why risk sending me in his stead? Why doesn't he or even some of your other agents drop in on the sellers and take the chip?
Because Mr. Darrow wants an absolute guarantee that there will be no casualties. We will not play by their rules. We want them arrested and questioned, then properly prosecuted and sentenced. This will require stealth and efficiency. That's why a man with your particular skills will be indispensable.
Anything else I need to know?
The sellers are expecting Mr. Fei and Mr. Fei alone. If they spot you, they will shoot on sight. Need I point out this might make your job a lot harder?
Story of my life.
You must get that chip back, Mr. Jensen.
Alright, once again, we need to get some more details.
Any idea who these sellers are?
Nothing substantial. We have a hunch they might be linked to Taiyong Medical, but the data chip will allow us to know for sure.
How's that?
All of our data chips are encoded with unique IDs and binary signature recognition. This means we'll be able to know exactly where it came from and where it went.
What kind of information are we talking about here? What could people be so eager to sell?
I am not at liberty to say.
You've been working for Darrow a long time. How do you like it?
Working for a powerful man ensures I am trusted with crucial tasks and involved in world-shaping events. It's quite exhilarating. You, of all people, should understand this.
Can you give me a quick recap of what I have to do?
You must go to the Alice Garden pods in the Daigong district and intercept men who are waiting to sell classified information to a buyer. You will have to incapacitate all of them and retrieve the chip. Remember, no kills. Then bring the chip back to me. The sellers will shoot on sight, so be careful in your approach.
I understand this is a favor for Mr. Darrow, but can I expect compensation?
Of course. We do not expect charity, Mr. Jensen. You will receive payment in credits for your services.
Well, that's fair.
I think we're done for now.
Alright, that's the second of our 2 side quests to do in the hub on our second trip around. So, let's talk to this guy. Or not. And now let's go get the next step done for the first side quest, since it exists here on this side of the map. If I can find the entrance to it. Where's that again? Oh yeah, here it is. Past the cage and up the stairs, and into this back room. Yes, into this back room, the very long staircase. And hey, this guy's new. That squeaky light fixture isn't, though. Alright, sounds like they're in the sewers. There are actually several sewers to check, but in this case it's the one by the Alice Garden pots. Convenient. So let's head back over to the other side of the map. And straight to Alice Garden pots because that was quite a walk. Right, so first thing I need to do is take out the sellers who are sitting at the other end of this little sewage channel. Water runoff, maybe? That is definitely not just water that Jensen is kneeling in, though. Like, no matter what else is true about it. Alright. Apparently the game thinks I'm in range now. So, this guy. I saw him patrolling before, but he seems stuck there now. But hey, I can deal. Just gotta have a quick little instant of invisibility. Set a gas mine ready for the guys coming to investigate the body. Apparently that guy's just out of range, sadly. Oh, and now they're panicking. They can't see me, but they figure they know where I am. So they're shooting at it. And they keep getting closer, too. That just seems like a bad idea on their part. Oh, crap. Better get him out of the water there. Don't want him to drown. Especially not in shit. That would suck. Oh, there's the guy with the chip. Hey, you can actually see the darts sometimes. It's funny. Seeing it stick right up out of his chest like that. No new information, just what we figured it was. Alright, but yeah, like I was saying, this is the sewer where the guy in the limb clinic wanted us to meet. Yeah, and there he is. Zelazny.
They send you?
If you're talking about your former buddies at Bell Tower, the answer is no.
Wait a minute. You're Jensen, right? I heard that some of my former buddies have been looking for you.
Evasive sounds pointless.
Could be. What's it to you?
When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong.
You've dropped the merc gig to become a man of the cloth?
Hardly. I just have an interest in theology. And I love quoting the book. Everything in it is so evocative. Now, tell me, are you here to stop me?
Not necessarily.
Not exactly. I'm here on behalf of someone who wants you to understand reason.
Let me guess. Dr. Wing, right? He's a good man. And I know he's only trying to do what he thinks is right. But he doesn't quite grasp the whole picture here.
Then why don't you enlighten me? Start by explaining why you went rogue.
When an average man decides he no longer shares his employer's views and opts to leave, we say he's handing in his resignation. When men like us do the same, it's called going rogue. You can't quit a job like ours, Jensen. You know that.
Well, let's hear his side.
Yeah, okay, I can relate. But you still haven't answered my question. And what do you mean when you say you no longer share your employer's view?
Back in the US, when I first got into the army, I did it because I wanted to serve my country. I believed in its values. I believed in its government. Back then, I believed that by serving my government, I was serving the people it was supposed to protect.
Nice sentiment. But you don't work for the US anymore, you work for Bell Tower.
Times change, Jensen. You know the story. Capitalism's final encroachment on one of the most lucrative industries in the history of mankind. War got privatized. The US military offloaded its special operations to PMCs like Blue Water Global and Bell Tower. I believe that as long as they were working for the government, they were serving the same cause. So when they offered me the chance to work on major operations at twice the pay grade, I made my jump.
Well, let's keep asking him questions. Reasoning doesn't work on him, by the way.
Why don't we just skip to when things went sour?
Bell Tower outfitted us with top-notch augmentations. The kind of stuff civilians never hear about. Gave us a massive edge over the enemy. Later, seeing as my unit was one of the most successful ones, they selected us for a special program. Top secret, experimental tech. Told us we would get to work on critical black ops for the US government. But there was a price to pay.
Go on.
We had to be implanted with a neural hub that manipulates memory centers in the brain. Basically controlling what you can and cannot remember.
And you agreed to this?
Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. The augmentation was supposed to keep us safe, make sure we'd never remember details if we fell behind enemy lines. That was the main function. The second one, the one they didn't tell us about, was to lower our inhibitions. Make us more receptive to orders we'd likely disobey. Bell Tower turned us into the perfect mercs.
Hey, so they gave him the Molly 6 dialogue.
If you were so perfect, and the hub made you so perfect, how did it fail? How come they didn't outfit the whole agency?
I told you the tech was experimental. After a couple of ops, I started experiencing memory shifts, remembering bits and fragments of past operations. Slowly, I realized some of these operations couldn't logically have been orchestrated by the government. I was asked to do highly questionable things, even by professional standards.
Aren't we all?
Not like this, Jensen. Our services have been sold to corrupt officials in the American and Chinese governments. A combination of lies and use of the neural aug made sure we complied. We were working for a shadow government. Individuals corrupted by a quest for personal power.
So how'd you get out of it?
I confronted the project director. He quoted Apocalypse Now. You have to have men who are moral, and at the same time who are able to utilize their primordial instincts to kill without feeling. I forced him to disconnect the hub, for me and my squad mates here. And then I killed him. I went through his files and contacts. I know who these corrupt men are now. They've turned us into killing machines, and now they'll get to experience their experiment firsthand.
Yeah, like I said, reasoning doesn't work on him, and neither does the Casey aug. He's too augmented himself for that.
Dr. Wing said our situations would resonate. I don't think he realized it might go both ways. Some men deserve the justice we bring on them. Do what you have to do, Zelazny. I won't get in your way.
I appreciate that, Jensen. I didn't want you to die for a cause that isn't yours. These men I killed, and these men I'm going to kill. They have names, families, they're people. Their deaths shouldn't be erased from my memory by some electronic software. They should haunt me, taunt me, until I finally meet our Lord and pay for my sins. But the men behind this, they deserve to die. And I think there's poetry in the fact that they engineered their own demise.
And he vanishes along with his cohorts. So you never have the chance to talk to him or to go back on what you say and kill him anyway. Once you make your choice, you gotta stick with it. But yeah, so a third option was never in the cards. Either you let him go or you don't.
Hey, Jensen. Zelazny here.
Zelazny? How'd you get this frequency?
You're no stranger to top-secret augmentations, Jensen. You figure it out. In the meantime, just want to let you know I've contacted some of my old pals at Bell Tower. Got them to reassign a couple of local patrols. You should have a few less problems to deal with for a while.
Thanks.
Don't mention it.
Well, since we're almost at the limb clinic, I won't bother cutting the video. I'll just go inside here and tell the doctor the mixed news. Yeah, it's not really good or bad.
So? You have found Zelazny? I cannot stress enough the importance of this task, Mr. Jensen.
I found him.
Really, Mr. Jensen? You have been able to make him understand reason? Will he turn himself in?
It's a long story, Doc. I tracked Zelazny and his men. They were hiding in the sewers. And after talking to him, I decided to let him go.
What? But he is a dangerous man, Mr. Jensen. You should not have done this.
He's only dangerous to the people who hired him. So let's try to convince the doc about Zelazny's motives.
The men Zelazny's after are far more dangerous than he is. His methods are extreme, but I think his cause is justified. To be honest, Doc, I believe what he wants isn't that different from you. An honorable government free of corruption. They could use a man like you.
I had not foreseen such a thing. I don't know, Mr. Jensen. You seem to believe that the end justifies the means, but I don't know. I'll have to think about this. Here is the Praxis kit as promised. Go away. You don't know what you've done.
I'm guessing that must be generic because it sounds even angrier than the way I left him. I wonder if he might not give you the Praxis kit if you choose the wrong options. Or maybe he wouldn't if I didn't ask about it first.
Maybe if some of those people had lost an arm in a work accident like Chan did, they wouldn't be so quick to criticize.
I know. But if they haven't lived it, it's easy for people to judge you and say, oh, you only want an augmented arm to get an advantage in life.
Well, they should understand some people need arms to live a normal life. Chan would probably be on the street jobless without his cyber arm.
I just hope Lim won't have a problem fixing that glitch he's been experiencing. I'm sorry, I don't have any change. Have you been having problems with your augmentations? I hear a lot of people are.
Nice enhancements, man. They look almost military grade. I don't suppose you tell me where you got them. I've been thinking I'd like to try out a new limb myself.
Oh, these aren't almost military grade. Alright, now, here we are.
You must get that chip back, Mr. Jensen.
I got the chip. The cellars are out cold.
Excellent work. Seems Mr. Darrow was right to trust you. We will send people to take care of the terrorists. Could I see the chip?
Just a second.
How about you tell me what's on it first?
Blackmail, Mr. Jensen? Don't waste your time. I won't tell you anything. Besides, there are stones better left unturned. Might as well just give me the chip and leave it at that.
Actually, you seem like a beta. You enjoy being the second banana.
Look, you're a powerful young woman. You're in a position that warrants your access to classified information. I understand that not everybody should get their hands on this, but I'm like you. I work for a powerful man, and I get entrusted with secret information on a daily basis. Plus, I'm the one who busted his ass getting this chip for you.
I guess your point is not entirely without merit. But understand, this information is extremely confidential. It concerns Panchaea, and more specifically, the Hyron Project.
Hyron Project? Never heard of it.
I'm not surprised. It is a well-guarded secret. But without it, Panchaea could not exist. Such an ambitious project. An installation extending all the way to the ocean floor. The pressure exerted against it is constantly shifting. Yet the slightest defect in structural integrity could bring it all down. That's why we needed something powerful and extremely efficient to monitor it, day and night.
You're saying the Hyron Project is some kind of advanced computer?
Yes, I suppose you could say that.
Thank you for your honesty. The information is safe with me, don't worry. Here's your data chip.
Ah, perfect. You don't know what this means, Mr. Jensen. Your help has been invaluable. Thank you. Here you go. Payment as promised. I'm sure Mr. Darrow will wish to congratulate you himself. Expect to hear from him soon.
Oh, the Hyron Project.
It seems David has a flair for choosing his people, Mr. Jensen. You have done me a great service today.
Glad I could help. Couldn't let information about something as sensitive as the Hyron project get in the hands of the wrong people.
No. No, we couldn't. So, Meng Yao told you about the project, I see.
A little.
I'm afraid words can't do it justice. To fully comprehend the ramifications of what's been created in Panchaea, you'd have to see it for yourself. And who knows? Perhaps one day you will.
So this is the third way into the garage. The vent didn't work before, but now it does. But that'll have to wait for next time. So, last time I said I'd be covering a problematic novel in today's Dystopia Corner, and let me just say it's not problematic for its merely passable writing. But before I get into that, let me begin at the beginning. The book in question is the 2014 novel The Program, written by Suzanne Young. About the author. There actually isn't much I could find about the author this time. Suzanne Young was born in New York but moved to Arizona because she hated the cold. Her full-time job is a high school English teacher, and while The Program wasn't her first novel, it was the first work she wrote to really take off, in large part because the publisher Simon & Schuster picked it up. Since then, she has written either 3 or 4 other novels in the Program universe. It's a bit hard to tell, since apparently her publisher keeps changing book titles between the hardcover and paperback editions. The last 2 books on our list were released on the same day. So that's that. But since I got you here already, why don't I spare a few words about the rise of dystopian young adult fiction? Now, the obvious culprit for this recent fad would be the Hunger Games. I'd actually trace the origin back a little further. To me, it started with Harry Potter. The later novels in particular. The setting might not have been dystopian, but it did set a dark mood, and throughout the later books you get a sense that the heroes are just barely holding on, that the best they can do is slow the villain down until their conspiracy to assassinate him can finally bear fruit. That being said, there are dystopian elements to the Harry Potter series, along with more than a few satirical pokes at English society. I certainly enjoyed reading the books, but I get the feeling that the only people who will get the most out of the series are the ones who grew up in England's private boarding school system. The Potter books proved to publishers and copycat authors alike that there was a strong market demand for novels aimed at teens with darker plots and storylines. Teenage protagonists dealing with life and death situations is nothing new. And if anything, that describes a good half of all high fantasy epics out there. But what J.K. Rowling did was bring in a real human element to the drama, and really delve into the psychology that comes with facing impossible odds as an adolescent. You got to see the grief and the long recovery that comes from seeing the mentor figure die, betrayals that tear the traitors apart inside, and cause an otherwise upbeat protagonist to stop trusting anyone. And terrible deaths that drive the nominal good guys to compromise their morals left and right. High fantasy books can have all this, but it's sanitized, is the best way I can put it. The dirt and the ugliness really aren't present in high fantasy, and killing the bad guys is just what you do, no trauma required. The first Hunger Games novel came out in 2008, the year after the Harry Potter series concluded with the Deathly Hallows. Similarly, the movie The Hunger Games came out in 2012, the year after the last Harry Potter movie came out. Ever since then, the number of books and movies with a dark tone aimed at teens has skyrocketed. And so a less than excellent book like The Program becoming a bestseller doesn't really surprise me. But that's enough about all that. It's time for me to start the story. The Program takes place in a world in which adolescent depression has become a communicable disease, a behavioral contagion that is so dire it causes 1 in 3 teens to commit suicide. 33%. That is the death toll of the Black Plague. Nobody knows why depression has become contagious, but theories include vaccines and pesticides. The leading theory is pregnant mothers taking antidepressants. And never mind the fact that pregnant mothers don't take antidepressants because of worries about the unborn infant. Either way, the government apparently decided not to take any chances, and antidepressants are now Schedule 1. No accepted medical use. Anyway, to put a stop to this incredibly deadly plague, the state of Oregon has instituted what is now called the Program. Infected teens are involuntarily sent to closed hospitals for a 6-week treatment that removes a large percentage of their memories, particularly those of their friends and peers. Not just a trauma, but everything surrounding it. The returners are then sent to a different school and kept separate from the general population until they graduate or turn 18. Because apparently, childhood depression that is so fucking bad it kills a third of everyone clears up completely when you turn 18. The protagonist is a 17-year-old girl named Sloane Barstow. She has a brother named Brady who is only a year older than her, and his best friend is James. Around a year or two ago, Sloane and James realized they loved each other and started dating. And a few months after that, Brady killed himself by jumping into river rapids. Sloane and James were there and went in after him, but Brady broke his neck on a river rock and died. The book begins with Sloane in class and having to answer the daily mandatory depression questionnaire. The girl in front of her, Kendra, is dragged out of the classroom by 2 men in white uniforms wielding stun guns, and all the teacher can do is pretend that this isn't happening. After classes, Sloane and James meet up with a mutual friend, Miller, and tell him that his old girlfriend, Lacey, was recently released from the program. The 3 of them get the great idea to go see Lacey and find out whether she remembers Miller. James and Sloane act as a distraction so Miller can meet Lacey in the returner high school parking lot. But of course, she doesn't recognize him. Sometime later, Miller gets even more desperate and breaks into Lacey's bedroom to try and get through to her. But she starts crying and he runs. Miller decides to give up on her after that, and a couple of days later he gives up on everything and drinks a dose of quick death. Because after all, the best thing to do during a global suicide epidemic that kills 1/3 of all teenagers is to trademark a poison. It's not even quick either. Miller has enough time and energy to call James before he dies. There are dozens of chemicals that could kill you faster than that. Some of them are even painless. After Miller dies, James goes into a semi-catatonic state and is unsurprisingly picked up by the program. When she finds out, Sloane tries to kill herself by jumping into the river from the same spot Brady did. But when she hits the water, her self-preservation instinct kicks in and she drags herself to shore. She waits 6 weeks for James to exit the program, and unlike Miller, she goes to find James at the Wellness Center, one of the few places where returners and normal teens can interact. But of course James doesn't recognize her, and so Sloane enters a semi-catatonic state. Eventually, her mother calls the program, which Sloane thinks of as a betrayal, even though she knows her mother is just desperate not to lose her the way she lost her son. Knowing that the program will clean all of her belongings out of her room, she hides a picture of Brady and James and a purple plastic ring James gave her in her mattress, and when the orderlies come for her, she cuts her wrist with a pair of scissors. So begins Part 2, which is Sloane's experiences in the program. The treatment turns out to be quite simple. First, the therapist gives Sloane a red pill that relaxes her and forces her to start talking and thinking about the past, mostly about her times with James and Brady, and then once the session is over, she takes a yellow pill, which removes the memories she had just recalled. The therapist seems to think that Sloane and James are codependent, and I'm not sure if that's supposed to be incorrect or not. The narrative is a first-person perspective, so it's definitely biased. While she's at the hospital, Sloane meets a fellow patient named Mike Realm, who goes by his last name. However, it turns out that Realm is actually part of the program, an undercover handler who gets assigned to trouble cases like Sloane. In fact, based on the book's epilogue, turns out that basically everyone Sloane interacted with was a program plant, which at that point seems inefficient. Realm falls in love with Sloane, which he's not supposed to do, but even after Sloane forgets about James, she keeps him at arm's length. She also finds out about Realm's secret one day, and when she threatens to blow his cover, he forces her to take an extra strong dose of the yellow stuff so that she forgets the whole day. There's also a not undercover handler who is supposed to be the bad cop to Realm's good cop, but like Realm, he takes it too far. He offers Sloane a purple pill, which will preserve exactly one of her memories, and she reluctantly takes it in exchange for a disgusting makeout session. Later, the handler pushes even further, and Realm eventually gets him fired. Incidentally, Sloane uses the pill to remember about the items she hid in her mattress. Part 3 begins when Sloane exits the program and heads back home. Her memories are basically Swiss cheese at this point, so the other reason the Returner High School exists is to fill in the blanks of their education. Sloane gets a brand new wardrobe of generic preppy clothes, and she's told her brother died in a rafting accident down by the river. After that, things start to unravel pretty quickly. In the first place, Sloane's handler is Kevin, a personal friend of Realm who promises to let the two contact each other once Sloane leaves the initial readjustment period. Sloane's first new friend is Lacey, Miller's old girlfriend, because apparently they still get along even when they don't have any shared history. Lacey invites Sloane to the wellness center and introduces her to her new boyfriend, Evan, and a non-returner named Liam. Liam was briefly mentioned before as being Sloane's first boyfriend before James, and he ends up confronting her on the building's back porch. By sheer coincidence, James is out there too, and he gets Liam to back off. They don't recognize each other, but they do feel a mutual attraction they can't explain. As the days go on, Sloane and James talk to each other more and more, and that's despite Kevin and Sloane's parents insisting that James is bad news. Eventually, Sloane's preserved memory returns, and she finds the photo of her brother and James along with the ring. She confronts James with the photo, but he's just as mystified as she is. Meanwhile, something's going on with the program, and Kevin has to switch assignments. Before he goes, he gives Sloane Realm's address, so Sloane and James go to meet him at his place at the edge of town. Realm isn't too happy to see James, but he confirms for them that once the memories are gone, they won't be coming back. However, he does mention that Brady killed himself, something Sloane gets her father to admit when she gets back home. To thank him, Sloane gives Realm a kiss, even though she already has stronger feelings for James. Sloane needs to get out of the house after that, so she goes back to the wellness center with Lacey. Liam is there again, and by sheer coincidence, he took a dose of quick death just before he arrived, and he has enough time to taunt Sloane about her lost memories before he keels over and dies right in front of her. Later that night, Sloane goes out and contacts first James and then Realm for comfort. During the second meeting, Realm realizes that Sloane loves and will always love James. Aww. The next day, James apologizes for being rude, which he was, and the two of them head to a spot on the river where Sloane and Brady just so happen to hang out a lot, and James just so happens to give Sloane a pink plastic ring from the same vending machine where he got the purple one he gave her before. The two get physical after that. On their way back to town, Sloane calls ahead on speakerphone, and James realizes her mother must have turned her in again. Realm sends Sloane a message asking for a meeting, but when they get to his house, they meet his sister instead. Realm still believes in the program, but he also believes Sloane and James should leave the state and join the rebels. Because of course there are rebels, and of course they're called rebels, and not an opposition organization, or something else that would make sense in context. Realm has left Sloane and James 2 gifts, his sister's car and an orange pill, which is supposed to restore lost memories and is super rare. Sloane eventually decides against taking it, but she keeps it instead of destroying it, so maybe she takes it in the sequel or something. Either way, this book is done. The analysis. I've said this before. The point of a dystopia is to satirize an idea. To start with what sounds like a good idea and take it to its logical extreme, therefore pointing out that even the best ideals have dark sides to them. Convenience and political correctness, collectivism, bureaucracy, genetic engineering again, equality, gender roles and identities. So what are we satirizing here today? Well, to me, looks like the program is satirizing adolescent psychiatry. And sure, that's something they could use a good poking at. Did you hear the one about amphetamines and ADHD? Amphetamines are powerful stimulants that also happen to be very addictive and can lead to a special kind of psychosis if you take too many too quickly. Movie studios used to hook their stars on amphetamines so that they could keep up with the grueling schedules of Golden Age Hollywood. And they'd also take barbiturates so that they could sleep at night. This combination killed Marilyn Monroe. And these days, drug companies have repackaged amphetamines as ADHD drugs. They do have a positive effect on the condition, and they do have a different effect on kids with ADHD than kids without it. But most of the studies confirming this are of poor quality and don't account for the drug's addiction risk and long list of side effects. The cure may very well be worse than the disease, but drug companies exist to sell drugs, and they can influence doctors who really should know better. But if you really want to satirize something, you have to understand it. You have to know it inside and out. George Orwell was a socialist. Zamyatin was a communist. Ray Bradbury was an American. And while Suzanne Young is a high school teacher, I am not convinced that she understands depression. Now let me be clear about my own understanding here. I have never suffered from clinical depression. My mother has, and she still struggles with it today. But I have felt depressed, and I have been aware of it enough to know what makes it different from regular grief. It's not sadness. You're not upset. You're empty. You're hollow. Your reason to wake up the next morning is missing, and you even lack the motivation to find a new one. That's what leads to the many symptoms of depression, which tend to be different in different people because the human brain is an inconceivably complex organ that I would need chaos theory to even hope to explain. But for the sake of illustration, some of these symptoms include bursts of anger, crying at random moments, sleeping too much or sleeping too little, eating too much or eating too little, anxiety, guilt, absent-mindedness, and yes, thoughts of suicide. So here's objection 1. Depression does not necessarily lead to suicide. Depression can be a cause of suicide, but so can immense pain, both physical and mental. For that matter, the reason depression exists as an emotion is to alleviate mental pain, to numb the sorrow of loss and give you the chance to rebuild and move on. That's why it's the 4th stage of grief, just before acceptance and just after bargaining, which is when the pain of loss is at its worst. But sometimes shit goes wrong and the depression never leaves. Sometimes it's because of severe trauma. Sometimes it's the result of persistent stress, like bullying. And sometimes it's a straight-up chemical imbalance with no outside cause whatsoever. But as I was saying, depression does not inevitably lead to suicide. And the idea that 1/3 of all teens will kill themselves from depression is so crazy it's hilarious. In a dark joke kind of way. Objection 2. Wiping memories is a horrible idea. I realize that's basically the point of the book, but a dystopia needs to at least sound plausible to have an impact. You need to portray an extreme version of what real people are advocating, and I don't know that anyone would advocate for involuntary memory erasure even if that were possible. Hell, that wouldn't even work on patients with a chemical imbalance, and if the backstory is to be believed, that's the case for all of these teenagers. The point of psychiatric drugs is to help patients function in society because something in their brains is keeping them from doing that. These drugs may have side effects, but that's exactly what they are, side effects, not intended results. In the meantime, psychiatrists are supposed to provide other treatments, like grief counseling and cognitive behavioral therapy, so that one day the drugs will not be needed. That is the state of the modern mental health profession. Still, I suppose I should give the book credit for one thing, which is the way it portrays the fear and dread a lot of teens feel when they find out they have a mental disease. I have this friend, and let's just say he has a lot more experience with the mental health profession than I do. He's had good therapists, and he's had bad therapists. He's had prescriptions that did him a lot of good, and he's had prescriptions that only messed him up. Apparently he was a scrawny kid once upon a time, but then a drug fucked up his metabolism, and he's been a heavyweight ever since. This friend of mine has anger management issues, and he's let his temper get the better of him more than once. But I have never heard him more upset than when he was back in high school, when he called me just after his then-girlfriend was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I had to make him call me back after 10 minutes just so he could calm down enough to make sense. He raved about it for days afterwards, and while I eventually got him to admit that his girlfriend needed help, he was still far from happy with the idea that mental health professionals would be doing the helping. As an outsider looking in, I can't say that I understand what he was thinking, or what he was going through, or what he had gone through to get to that point. But I can at least tell you this much. The book portrays a distrust in authorities, a sense of betrayal when parents side with the professionals, an idea that teens can help and protect each other even when they obviously can't, and a guilt which they feel when they inevitably fail. So while the program in the program might not reflect reality, the emotions of the teen protagonists definitely do. Thanks for joining me again today in Dystopia Corner, and I hope I'll see you next time when I cover the mascot of silly cyberpunk 90s movies.